Hello and welcome to our January regular board business meeting. Thank you for coming tonight on this rainy night. Before we get started, I wanted to share a few thoughts and reminders. We want our boardroom to be welcoming, safe space for all and any of our community members and guests. As this is a business meeting, we do expect those in attendance to conduct themselves in a respectful way. We would ask that you do not interrupt the meeting, and if there's an immediate need that you have, such as an audio concern or question, please move to the back of the room and let one of our staff members know. As a reminder, there is a designated space for video recording and or media. Does not look like that's needed tonight. We will now get started with our regular business meeting and the items on our agenda. First item is roll call. Director Barrows.
Here.
Director Decker.
Here.
Director Smith.
Here.
Director Zavala Ortega.
Here.
And I'm also here. First up, we have our superintendent's report. Dr. Snell.
Thank you, Director Sproul. To start us off this evening, this is a new practice this year. So if this is your first board meeting this year, we start off with the national anthem. And if you're able, I'll ask you to rise in a moment. Tonight, it's performed by Geyser Middle School Choir. And then that choir is also performing Thank You. And I'll talk a little bit more January School Board Director Appreciation Month. And at the conclusion of our meeting, we play the other musical piece. So if you're able to rise, we'll do the national anthem to start our meeting off.
Oh, say, can you sing? What the concert delight was so sad sleeping, who's the frightened bright star? Oh,
Thank you, everyone. And if you are leaving early the meeting tonight and you would like to see that second performance, you can look at it through the YouTube archive of our video, so our meetings. This evening, the superintendent report number 1, Happy New Year to everyone. Thank you for coming out on this, as Director Sproul said, kind of a blustery, wet night. And it looks like we have some weather ahead of us. Been very fortunate so far in the school year. One of the things I hate least about being a superintendent are snow days. And just the pressure around that, and really a great appreciation for our transportation team. They'll be out at 3:30 in the morning tomorrow and most likely the rest of this week as we assess the road conditions, try to determine if there's any impact to our schedule. And then we have a 3-day weekend with Dr. King's birthday celebrated on Monday. So hopefully we'll be able to get through this weather without any missed school. And also, just as it always happens, tomorrow is the first of a regularly scheduled 2-hour early release, which always complicates things with weather. And so if we do have a 2-hour late start, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to do 2-hour late start, get to school, and then turn around and go right back home. In fact, it's really difficult for us to do that. So that would be canceled. And so we'd have a normal release at the end of the day tomorrow. So always a lot of logistics going on. Also, we just wanted to acknowledge that last night in City Council, they approved a partnership of a grant that they had with some funding for a homework cafe pilot. And so we're really excited that is moving forward, excited to hear more details about it. We have Principal Kaufman from Ogden's here tonight. We're recognizing some of his staff, and I know that Ogden was one of the initial sites that was discussed with the city as a potential for using these funds. So more to come on that one, but wanted to celebrate that. Ogden, I guess, is in the spotlight tonight too, because there's a couple of agenda items that you're approving closure of works that were done. And I know that everyone associated with Ogden Elementary is grateful for the parking lot changes. And so that's a celebration for sure. Probably freeing up Principal Kaufman's time a little more than being standing out there along 87th, trying to make sure everybody's safe every day. So we appreciate the staff there and their patience with that. And then I wanted to give an update on the strategic plan and talk a little about where we're at with that. And then also my usual budget update. So strategic plan update. Now, not everybody grabbed one of these flyers when they came in, but this is a new practice for our board meetings. Every board meeting, there will be a physical copy of a little bit of a progress monitoring check related to the strategic plan. It's great that we spend a lot of time going out and listening to our community, but the responsibility is to do something with what we heard. And so each month there'll be an update. This is a screenshot of what that document looks like back there. And then in addition, you can scan the QR code if you come in and get electronic version of that. And so for this particular update, our curriculum instruction and assessment team spent some time to look at some of the progress that our students and staff are making related to belonging. That's been a really important goal that we heard come out of the strategic plan, is really making sure our students feel safe and supported as they come to school so that they can really be at their best as learners. So call that to your attention. If anybody wants a copy of those, just raise your hand. We'll get it to you right now even, and you can look at that. Additionally, I wanted to talk a little about advisory. Not everybody raise your hand at once, but we'll make sure that we get that to you. Additionally, I wanted to just update the board and the public on our advisory structure. That was something that came out of the strategic planning process of thinking about how we engage the community differently. And previously in the district, we had advisories. We had usually 5, 6, 7 advisory. A lot of those were focused on career technical education. That was a requirement for advisories. We're up to 15 to 20 advisories right now in our district. And some of the examples are there. You've had reports from those advisories in our meetings. And those advisories are representing almost 300 different community members. And community members could be a student, family, staff, just community at large. Most of those meetings are the frequency is about 6 to 8 times a year. And so there's a lot of opportunity for us to listen and for us to share and have two-way communication, which was one of the things that we heard from the strategic plan that we want to continue. Obviously, with a district our size, that can be challenging. And so this structure creates a pathway for that communication. One of the things that we've talked about, I facilitate some of the advisories and lots of other people facilitate advisories. And so we want them to have some common experiences so that we always start those advisories with some sort of community build. It's really important that we develop relationships through those. We want to connect the learning or whatever we're talking about back to the strategic plan. And then the last part of that is always have some sort of communication loop. So the people in the advisory are representing other people. And so what would they want to share? If it's student advisory, what would they want to share with other students? If it's staff advisory, what would they want to share about their experience with other staff? So really excited about that structure being in the second year and seeing where that can go. Finally, on the strategic planning front, we spent a lot of time listening, collecting, developing goals, action steps, and we haven't got to a point where we've really branded that in a public way. We've talked about it a lot here, but we're close to being able to launch the website so that the community can engage it a little more easily. And as you know, there's different components to the plan, and those components are embedded in different spots on the website. So there's a vision of a graduate, and that's a statement, but then that's also articulated in some skills or ideas or concepts. And so there's a page related to that. There's a section of the page that is related to our core values that came from the community. And then, as many of you know, I go and interview students, and each week we highlight a student that's highlighting one of the core values and what it means to them. And so when you go on that website, you can look at the different core values and hear it from a student's perspective. And then we have these three priority areas that are all student-centered: staff, community, and experience, with some aspirational goals in each of those areas. And so the community has an opportunity to look at those and then drill down as far as they want to as we continue to make progress with this plan. As you know, the board asked us back in August, September, and October, when we were adopting this plan, to relook at the mission statement. The mission statement for our district had been in place for probably about a decade or more. And so you asked us to look at, does that mission still reflect who we are as a district and who we hope to be? Does it still reflect the priorities that emerged from the strategic planning process? And asking some folks what they thought about that. And so that same advisory structure that I mentioned, we went to the representatives of that group. We had 91 different people weigh on the previous, or I guess existing, mission statement, and give us feedback and input on that. And then we had a small group of writers. If you've ever tried to write something with 15 people, it's really difficult. So we had a small group that took all that input and then tried to update the mission statement. Some of the I guess themes from people that reviewed it. One, it was did anybody remember the mission statement? Can you rattle it off right now? Right, that was one of the things. Like, it was good words, but like it didn't necessarily connect with people in a way that they could reflect it back. So that was input that came. And then it just felt like some of the language was outdated and didn't really represent who we were, at least from all the input that came in the process. So right now, this draft mission statement is pretty simple. Inspire learning, growing community, each student every day. And so that's kind of a draft statement. We wanted to bring that to you publicly tonight so that you can kind of think about that. And then over the coming weeks, we're hoping to kind of push this out to our community. Of course, anything that's out there is something that we can continue to look at and evolve, and, you know, that this isn't the mission statement for 150 years. But for right now, this was that group's best attempt at trying to take the task that you gave them and deliver for you. So I'm going to pause there and see if there's any questions or comments from the board about what I've shared so far.
I appreciated, I think the board just got the first look at this mid last week, and it's nice to see the 15 months of the strategic plan come together and then synthesized in a way that is more branded, that I think the community can connect with. And I appreciate the extra time to just sit with it for a little while and reflect. So thank you.
Okay, our budget update tonight. This is a regular update that we have in these board meetings as well. Always start with the landing page that we have. Really, our goal is to make a very complex budget as easily digestible as possible. And we're always open to input about how to do that better. And after tonight, we will have some specific updates related to building our 24-25 budget. So we'll include these slides that I'm sharing with you this evening, and then an opportunity for people to weigh in with questions or ideas, just concerns, anything like that. As you know, I try to do these budget updates with both revenue and expenditure updates, and I'm always trying to close out variables that inform the budget adoption process for a public school system in the state of Washington. And so the first one was our levy passage last February. And so we're always want to express gratitude to our community for continuing that local support. The local combined with the state, combined with the federal support, is how we're able to deliver the programming that makes Vancouver Public Schools what it is. Enrollment is also one of the variables. And as we've talked about in here, we keep graduating larger classes than the incoming kindergarten classes. And that's been a trend for a number of years. And as a result, at best, our enrollment tends to be flat. And when we look at it going back 5, 6, 7 years, we're down anywhere from 5 to 7% from where we were then. We have a short legislative session coming up. It just started. So there's opportunities to testify in support or opposition of bills, and all different ways of sharing your voice. Because it's a short session and what we're seeing from the governor's budget and some of the proposals, we're not likely to see a lot of influx of revenue at this point, hopefully maybe next year. We talk about special education quite a bit and how we have to use local funds to offset the gap in what's happening between state and federal funding. State made a little progress with that last year, but we do still have significant gaps. And then we've discussed that we were able to use federal COVID relief dollars to really support our budget the last several years. And you all adopted budgets that utilize those funds to maintain our staffing levels as high as we could possibly do. On the expenditure front, still some variables that we need to work through. We want the best staff. We want to retain those staff. We know that we're a service-oriented profession, and the better people we can put in front of our students for connection, the better off students are going to experience the programming that we have. And those costs continue to increase, and so we're monitoring that. Last year, we did reduce some of our positions and used our fund balance to sustain that budget. And we don't have that anymore as a tool. And we're seeing increased student needs. Also, there's a gap between what it costs for our staff and what the state funds us. And so trying to make up that gap with local funds is really important and getting more and more difficult to sustain over time. And so all that led to this challenge that we talk about, where we really are looking at some gaps that are difficult to address when we look at the 24-25 budget adoption. And so that's what we're talking about and we'll be talking about in the coming months. In the December board meeting, you all set the reduction target to be in the 8 to 10% range of our budget. And the rationale that was provided, lots of the things I've already talked about, enrollment. One other addition is the inflationary costs of just things like insurance and utilities and all that stuff that everyone's experiencing. The staffing cost increase and those gaps. And so without any additional revenue and without the ability to use fund balance year after year, the gaps require us to do a reduction in order to have a balanced budget for the 24-25 school year. So some of the next steps after the December meeting, and you gave us that direction, is we as staff need to start modeling scenarios for a path to that 8 to 10% reduction. We need to review those scenarios with you as a board. You have a budget committee with Director Sproul and Director Smith that represent the board. To give us some input on that. We need to work with our district labor and school leaders to really inform that path after that input from the board. And then prior to that input too, is a cycle that we go through. We need to monitor the legislative session because if there are going to increase the revenue, then we don't have to do as much reduction. So we want to pay attention to that. That will happen over the course of January and February. And then in early March, we'll finalize that path towards the reduction goal. And then unfortunately, we begin the process of notifying impacted staff. With the different labor agreements that we have, there's different processes in place to do that. And so in some situations, a staff member may just be reduced because their position is eliminated. Or in other scenarios, it could create like a bumping scenario where somebody with seniority or something could bump other people. And that creates a lot of logistical work and anxiety and stress, as we have individual people that are affected greatly about what they do and the passion that they bring to the work and the service that they provide. And I know you as a board have talked about that every position in our district, you didn't approve these positions just because. Every position has a purpose and value. And so it's a very difficult process to go through, and appreciate the board in advance of those difficult kinds of decisions. So that is our budget update. And before I stop and open it up for questions too from the board, I did mention that it is School Board Appreciation Month, and these were produced by Flex Academy, the flower arrangements in front of you. It's a small token of what it, I guess, the service and the recognition for the service that you provide our community in a volunteer elected position to try to sort through these really complex, community things that we want the best for our children, and there's not easy answers sometimes. And so thank you in advance for the work that you'll do this spring, and thank you for all the work that you've done previously. And with that, I'll pause and see if there's any questions on the budget update, and then we'll get into the recognition part of our agenda. And thank you all for your patience if that's what you're here for.
Nope. I just wanted to, I think historically we have, the budget process has been more of a 4-month process where we really, begin in April and we don't really discuss publicly until the summer. So I just want to thank Dr. Snell and Brett, the ability to discuss this almost year round so we can be, as strategically positioned as possible, because these are the harder decisions that we don't necessarily want to make, but we want to go into it with a long runway so we can give our staff the time and dignity to make their decisions. So thank you for that.
I will just add on to that too, that not only do I appreciate the transparency and the information you're providing to us as a board, but also I think the ongoing communication that you're having with staff, because I know it is stressful and there's a lot of questions and wonderings about kind of what's going to happen. And so I know part of what we want as a board for you and as a district is to be as transparent with information as we can. So I appreciate you doing that and continuing to update staff and our community about kind of where we're at with the process.
And I just want to add, along with the transparency with the staff, also the transparency with the community, having our website updated regularly and allowing people to drill down and see what's happening, where money is going, where we need to look at our budget cuts and how that will affect us in the long run and our students and our community in the long run. Having that ability for the community to go on in their time when they have the time really increases the transparency. They don't have to be here at a meeting to listen to it. They can go and see what's happening on their own. So I really appreciate that added factor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for the superintendent report. Next on the agenda is our recognition, the portion where we get to recognize our amazing staff and students. I'm going to be turning this over to Executive Director of Human Resources, Jeff Fish. He will read the name of each staff member and a short description of why the employee has been chosen to receive this award. If you are being recognized tonight, please walk to the podium so we may present you with your certificate or plaque, and then pause in front of the backdrop where Dr. Snell and myself will join you for a photo. At the very end, we're going to do a group photo, so please don't disappear. And then at the end of the recognition portion, if you choose to leave the meeting, absolutely fine. Just do so quietly so you don't disturb the rest of the meeting.
Thank you, Director Sproul. It's time to recognize the January Employee Excellence Award recipients. The following employees were selected by a committee of their peers for commitment to the students and staff of Vancouver Public Schools. These recipients were among the many outstanding nominees who create a caring environment and positive workplace through their exceptional efforts. For information about each recipient or to submit a nomination, please visit the district's website. Our first recipient is Valerie Chavez. This evening, we recognize Valerie Chavez as special education teacher at Alki Middle School for her kindness and dedication to her students. Her impact is evident in the significant educational, social, and personal growth of her students, many of whom have transitioned successfully into general education settings. Valerie's generosity extends beyond the classroom. She has also contributed her time and energy as a coach for bowling and volleyball during the 22-23 academic year. Valerie's humility and selfless devotion to teaching and enriching the lives of her students is truly commendable. Thank you, Valerie. And it is with great pleasure that we recognize Joshua Flick, a Jason Lee Middle School science teacher. Joshua consistently goes above and beyond to assist students in reaching their goals and realizing their fullest potential. Known for always maintaining a positive attitude, he brings an infectious enthusiasm to the classroom, inspiring a love for learning in Jason Lee's students. Joshua can transform learning into an engaging and enjoyable experience, a quality that resonates deeply with his students. His contribution to the school and the field of education is truly invaluable, and his impact on the lives of our students is a testament to his compassionate approach. Thank you, Joshua. Our next recipient is Shannon Long. Shannon Long, a PE teacher at Geyser Middle School, is appreciated for her commitment to our students in the PE classroom and athletic events. She creates an inclusive environment that encourages student engagement in sports while prioritizing their safety. She takes proactive measures by supplying coaches with comprehensive first aid kits and offers support in the event of emergency situations. And Shannon's strong organization skills also contribute to smooth operations at middle school cross-country meets. We are grateful for Shannon's passion for physical education and her commitment to our students. Thank you, Shannon. Eugene Trahan is an exceptional member of the Ogden family, known for his patience, joyfulness, and kindness towards both adults and children. As the building operator at the school, the dedication to his work is evident in his tireless efforts to maintain cleanliness in classrooms, ensuring every detail from shining sliding glass doors to promptly addressing messes is impeccably managed. His positive attitude, commitment to his work, and his invaluable contributions to the school make him a deserving recipient of this recognition. Thank you, Eugene. Melissa Woods, a teacher librarian at Eisenhower Elementary, yay, is consistently going beyond her duties to create a welcoming and enriching environment for both students and teachers. Her role encompasses managing the library, aiding in research and project-based learning, coordinating school assemblies, resolving tech issues, and leading various educational and community programs such as the school-wide book reading project and the Battle of the Books program. Additionally, Melissa's dedication extends to her involvement in the social committee and her significant contribution to updating social studies materials for the district's fourth grade teachers. She is invaluable to the Eisenhower school community. Thank you, Melissa. Congratulations to all our Employee Excellence Award recipients. Now it's time for our student recognitions, and we would like to acknowledge several musicians and athletes for their accomplishments in Washington State programs and contests. Several of our students who participate in orchestra, band, and choir have been recognized by the Washington Music Education Association by being selected for all-state honors. Congratulations to the following middle school students for being selected to participate in the WMEA Junior All-State Orchestra: Furious Hill, Lily Cole, Alan Dees, and Jesse Meyer III. Our special thanks go to Ann Medellin for support of these students in their orchestra program. Oh, did I miss one? I missed that one. And my apologies, I think I missed a slide. Please join me in congratulating McKelvey Brewer and Heidi Williams from VSAA for being selected for the Washington All-State Wind Symphony. Our special thanks go to music teacher Luke Brockman for supporting these students. Congratulations. And now please join me in congratulating the following high school students for being selected to the WMEA All-State Orchestra: Taima Hang, Lindsay Harganani, Cody Hartley, and Henry Lorenza. Our special thanks goes to Selena Walker for supporting these students in their orchestra program. Congratulations to the high school All-State Orchestra members. And now please join me in congratulating the following high school students for being selected to the WMEA All-State Choir: Lucas Clark, Penelope Kay, Zaylin Ackley, Maggie Cole, Loki Salvador, and Levi Dillon. Our special thanks go to Ben Booton and Philip Denton for supporting these students in our choir programs. Congratulations.
What's your name? Lucas. Maybe. Okay. All right, yep, please get cozy on. All right, and 1, 2, 3. I can actually have everybody take a big step this way or kind of. Okay. All right, again, 1, 2, 3. There we go.
Congratulations to our high school All-State Choir members. And now please join me in congratulating Jacob Henry Harburg for being selected to the WMEA All-State Band. Our special thanks go to Dave Kex Chartney for supporting our band students. Congratulations, Jacob. And now congratulations to the Columbia River Girls Soccer Team for their third place finish in the Washington State Soccer Championship. I'm pleased to introduce Philemon Athanagas, head coach, to share brief remarks and introduce the team members who are able to join us this evening.
As mentioned, I'm Philly Athanagas. I'm the River Girls coach. I've been the girls coach for the last 12 years. And so once again, thank you guys for recognizing our accomplishments this year. We finished third in state and we had a record of 21, I think 2-1. And so absolutely outstanding achievement on the field. But I think what's even cooler, anybody who's been a part of a club or a sport, it's the memories that you make, the relationships that you build, and the character that you get to develop along the way. And so as much as the end goal was pretty awesome, you know, to make it to the state finals, everything that we accomplished along the way. And so one of the things that's really impressive about our group of girls is that as much as we want them to take things away from us as coaches and the program, we have such an awesome group of kids. And I feel like I honestly pluck things away from them every single year. And so we have a group of girls who are very, very well-rounded. I mean, they're involved in clubs, community service, multiple sports, working, doing all those things. And so it really, really is awesome to see them develop from freshmen to seniors and just how they change. And but it's also just really cool to see the quality of individuals that we had this year and last year and the year before. We really do have an awesome group of kids at River. And so I just want to say thank you guys and thank you to the group of individuals who were able to join us. Like I said, our players are very well rounded. So some of them are working tonight. Some of them are at they're playing a basketball game at Woodland, I think tonight as well too. And so thank you to the individuals who were able to make it. And then we also have a really awesome coaching staff as well too. And it takes many hands right on deck, as we all know. And so I'm thankful for the coaching team that we have as well too. So thank you guys very much.
All right, and 1, 2, 3.
Congratulations again to all the award recipients. The next portion on our agenda is audience participation, our public comments. Public comment is the time in our meeting where the board and administrative staff welcome comments from the public. If you would like to address the board and did not have an opportunity to sign in at the start of the meeting, please do so now. You may continue to sign in at any time during the public comment portion of our meeting. The sign up is in the back of the room. We ask that you approach the podium and state your name and your affiliation with the district for the record. You will have 3 minutes to make your comments. When you hear a chime, please conclude your remarks. If you have materials or additional comments you would like the board to review, please hand them to the staff in the back of the boardroom. This information will be provided to the superintendent and the board. Because most matters require fact-finding and review, and the state's Open Public Meetings Act restricts deliberation on topics that have not been placed on the publicly noticed agenda, In advance, the board is not able to respond to any public comment made at this time. If follow-up action is necessary, the board will ask Dr. Snell to work with the administrative staff to consider the information and respond accordingly. Again, this is a regular business meeting. We expect the audience to conduct themselves professionally and courteously. Speakers are also expected to be respectful. We ask the audience to refrain from clapping, cheering, or commenting while others give public comments, whether you are in support or against. We recognize there are diverse beliefs in our community, but one thing that we all have in common is that we all want to do what is best for our children. We are here today to work towards their future. The board asks that personnel complaints be submitted in writing. Disruptive conduct may cause the meeting to be adjourned and all audience members to be removed per RCW 4230.50. The board appreciates, listens, and cares about the broad range of perspectives in our community, and thank you in advance for your comments. This is my first time back in this chair in about 3 years. So I just wanted to go through a couple more nuts and bolts for public comment. All of the guidelines you can find in policy 1400. And it kind of outlines in more detail how we manage our public comment. Last year, the board did update our policy and procedures, and we discontinued the practice of yielding time. In addition, on any topic where there's a lot of energy in the community, I don't see that right now because we have a sparse room. The board chair does have the discretion in the interest of time to amend the time limits per policy 1400, and that's just in the interest of time. But again, that's when there are 60+ people signed up on the same topic. With that being said, we will go ahead and start public comment. First up is Heather Vian.
My name is Heather Vian. I'm a member of the community and a mother of 2. Last month, I had the privilege and the honor of being here when 3 of the board members were sworn in, which was pretty awesome, by the way. I watched each of you as you agreed on your own accord to uphold the federal and state constitutions. So I would like to take this time to just read parts of the Washington State Constitution and review it. So in Article 9 on Education, Section 1, it states that it is paramount duty of the state to make ample provision for the education of all children residing within its borders without distinction or preference on account of race, color, caste, or sex. And I think you're doing an excellent job to ensure that your idea of providing quality equity education for all groups in VPS. However, with 22,000 plus students graduating at 86% rate, while we still have only 43.1% that meet English language standards, as well as 29.8% that meet math standards and 40.7% that meet science standards. And we just adjusted our grading system to reflect these statistics. We used to be below, meeting, or exceeding, and now it's 2 grades below, 1 grade below, meeting or exceeding. The quality of our education appears to be declining, and the number of student enrollment, we have already heard from the board, is also down. I urge that we focus on English, math, and science, and STEAM, science, technology, engineering, art, and math. Section 4 also states is the sectarian control or influence that is prohibited. So all schools maintained or supported wholly or in part by the public funds shall be free from sectarian control or influence. This board is very proud of the surveys that they have done, and they've received 8,000 plus surveys, which sounds like a lot until you start breaking down some of the numbers. We have 22,000 students in this district, 1,500 faculty members, and I'm pretty sure we probably have more than 100,000 people living within the borders and boundaries of Vancouver Public Schools. So when you do the math, it's about 10%, maybe less than 10% that has been surveyed. And then everything goes from that survey to express the view and voice of the rest of it, the 90%. This is just one area of sectarian control and influence. Another is the intentional placement of flags that represent only portions of the population. Again, the only two flags that are required to post are the American flag and the Washington state flag. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Lauren Zeff.
My name is Lauren Zeff, and I am a mom and grandmother, homeowner, business owner in Clark County. Last month, I was actually very surprised by the board's emotional response to VSAA's enrollment interview process. I heard on one hand that there are many good art programs in our school system, but that on the other hand, people were so upset about the interview requirement at VSAA, it would be removed so that no one would have to be challenged by it. That interview process has purpose. It demonstrates the willingness to try. It doesn't require perfection, but a heart that is willing to show up and try. Because at VSAA, they're asked to participate in each of the arts, even if they're uncomfortable or inexperienced in certain areas. That is the attitude required for their creative process. And at VSAA, it began with the challenge of the intake interview. I'm concerned that our board is so immersed in DEI that they're not able to see the wisdom of this unique magnet, and we may be losing something very precious in this process. Will you take the extraordinary and make it mundane? Will you take the profane and make it normal? I've read the book Gender Queer, which the board supports in our school libraries. I wonder if you actually agree that images of masturbation, dildos, and fellatio are appropriate for minors who are suffering from gender dysphoria. And if we also have sexual journey manuals for the other kids so that everyone can be included. The author of Gender Queer implies that the reason for her dysphoria is genetic, but does not pursue genetic testing. She supports puberty blockers for minors so they don't have to suffer the pain she did as her body matured, but this with no personal experience in that stunting process. This person's dysphoria is accompanied with mental and emotional issues like trauma, fear, shame, as well as possible physical issues. It looks like she may be on the spectrum as well. She found other worldly pronouns that gave her a spark of joy, but also seemed to render her fragile so that if others did not participate as she desired, it would plunge her into despair, akin to physical pain. I believe we have a responsibility to help our kids deal with what is causing dysphoria, depression, anger, and pain. And the answer is certainly not in puberty blockers or surgery. I propose, again, that the woke agenda be removed from our core curriculum and become an optional program. I do not believe it is healthy nor moral. Let's not forget that the trauma from COVID persists and still needs to be addressed. I would like to address
Thank
this
you.
next month.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we have Trish Hammond.
I want to say thank you again to the board. I'm here again because 3 minutes wasn't enough time last month. And I was about the move to a lottery-based system. I am really surprised at how many people have come up to me and approached me and asked me what I think about that, both inside and outside of education. I've also been incredibly surprised at how everyone has said that they do not think that that is an equitable decision or that is in the best interest of kids. But I really want to put a little more personal spin on it. I forgot to say I'm a elementary school teacher in VPS. Uh, over the holiday, we were speaking with a family member who has a graduate of VSAA, and he was really voicing his discontent with this change in admissions. And he went on and he made this statement and he said, the school's not for everyone. And I said, oh my goodness, you should definitely listen to what the board had to say about that, because there was a lot of sort of chastising and it felt like accusatory that we were elitist and perhaps even racist, that we did not think that changing the system was a good idea. To which he said, I am a Black man raised by a single mother who lived in a low-income housing. I've never made more than 60,000. This is not about being elitist or excluding people. This is the fact that that's a special school where I just wish that you would go and visit it more. But the other spin I wanted to talk about was in my classroom every morning, we do a something joyful community circle. And a month ago on Wednesday, when I went there, I was still feeling very saddened by the board meeting. And one of my students said, Ms. Heyman, why do you look so sad? And I said, well, they made a decision to change the way that you can get into the art school to a lottery system from an interview system. And they, of course, because they're fourth graders, said, what's lottery? I said, lottery's this, where I pull your name out. And I myself was shocked at their reaction because they became visibly angry and upset. And we're like, what? What? We don't get to say why we should go to school there. They're not going to let us say why we should get to go to school there. And that's the main reason I came back here to talk to you again, because I'm like, I need to go and make their voice be heard. And I mean, I could talk to you about the indicators in that room. I could talk to you about, what their race is and what their poverty level is. And I mean, that's who's talking to me saying, why are they taking away my ability? I had one little girl, I keep this in my room because last month I talked about learned helplessness. This sits right by my desk. Oh, okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you to all who have signed up to speak tonight. Next on our agenda is our regular business agenda. We will be starting with the approval of minutes from our December 12th regular board meeting. Do I have a motion?
All motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any comments or questions? Okay, we'll go for a vote. Director Zavala?
Approve.
Director Smith?
Approve.
Director Decker?
Approve.
Director Barrows?
Approve.
And I also approve. The next portion of our agenda is the consent agenda, both instructional administrative support services and also our fiscal support services. Just as a clarification for audience watching at home and here, we review these agenda items typically in a committee of the whole meeting the month prior. Due to the calendar in December, we reviewed, the board directors all had a chance to review these over briefings and then direct questions to Dr. Snell. Do I have a motion for the consent agenda?
I motion.
Do I have a
I'll
second?
second.
Okay, thank you very much. Questions, comments? Okay, vote Director Barrows,
Approve.
Director Decker,
Approve.
Director Zavala,
Approve.
Director Smith,
Approve.
and I also approve. Okay, our regular business agenda is very short tonight. They're all first readings. I'm going to turn this over to our legal counsel, Taylor Richmond, to walk us through these policy first readings.
Thank you, Director Sproul. So the first policy up for first reading is policy 2090, program evaluation. The updates to this policy have been recommended by WASDA, and those updates are to remove outdated references to former OSPI assessment programs and just make the reference in general to the Washington assessments. The next two policies for first read are related. And so I think it makes sense to talk about policy 3520 first. That's our policy on student fines, fees, and charges. Sorry if there's feedback here. These policy updates are also recommended by WASDA. They're based on Washington House Bill 1536, which amended RCW 28A dot 635.060, and that limits the school district's authority to withhold students' high school diplomas because of lost or damaged property. Specifically, the new limitations prohibit us from withholding a diploma unless damages are in excess of $1,000 and prohibit withholding a diploma for more than 5 years. The law amendments also require that any community service that's performed in lieu of repaying the damages be credited at the minimum wage. So policy, the last policy, policy 3231, is the student records policy, and the recommended revisions to this policy come from WASDA and are simply to remove the language around student fines and fees and the withholding of diploma from this policy because they're contained already in the policy just addressed.
Thank you very much. Because it is a first reading, the board will not take action on these policy items. Are there any questions or thoughts at this point on these policies? Okay. With that, we have Board of Directors report. Are there any items that directors would like to discuss or share?
Just wanted to share that I'm the legislative representative for our district area. So one of two. And so the legislation session has started. So we'll just be emailing. I think we'll be receiving a lot of email updates around legislation. I will be speaking on Thursday around free meals for all students, 8 o'clock in the morning. So I'm excited about that. And any other opportunity I have, I will hopefully speak on behalf of us.
And you just returned from the legislative conference.
Yes, legislative meeting, and then we'll be at Day of the Hill. I will be at Day of the Hill at the end of the month. I believe I will also be at the Latino Legislative Day, which is Monday the 22nd. So it's a busy month with legislation. So yeah, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, there is no executive session tonight. So with that, our meeting is adjourned. Thank you all very much.